Recording, yes. Welcome back to Casuals Corner. You are here with me, your host, Will. And I shall be going through today one of the most exciting fights in the world, I believe, at the moment. So exciting, I believe these are the two best bantamweights in the world as it currently stands on their recent form. They're like star-crossed lovers. It was fate. They were meant to be. It wasn't meant to happen, but it's happened. And I think they're here for a real reason. Cory Sandhagen, Petr Yan. And before we jump into it, you know what to do. If you enjoy the content, and I've got a breakdown of all the fights that are coming up on 267 on the main card, hit the bell, hit the subscribe, and hit the like. I said that in the reverse order, but the important one is the bell, because stay up to date with the content. So let's jump into it. Let's have a look at the tail of the tape. We've got Petr Yan coming into it at 13-3 with his recent, again, performance against Aljimain Sterling. Then we had his fight, obviously, against a legend, Jose Aldo and Urijah Faber as well. We know how that one ended. And again, Urijah Faber, legend of the sport, legend of the division. And then on the flip side, we have Cory Sandhagen coming off a loss to TJ Dillashaw. Both coming off controversial losses. That's interesting. Didn't really think of it like that. TJ Dillashaw, we had the Marlon Moraes spinning a head kick, and obviously we had the Frankie Edgar flying knee, one of the most brutal KOs against one of the, again, a legend of the sport. So even coming into it, I would say a lot of dominance. I know there was that Aljimain Sterling loss in there for Cory Sandhagen, but I mean, that can happen to anyone. That can happen to anyone on any given day, and it's not impossible that could happen to Petr Yan. They're dry. It was the first round. There was the element of surprise. I don't think it happens to either of them from here on out. Cory Sandhagen is very much that calculated, reflective human being. He would go back and just drill 1,000 times how that never happens again, or how he's more alert to certain situations. And a random example of that is someone like Jorge Masvidal. When he got caught with that inverted triangle, he said he didn't even know that was a possibility, and he just went back, drilled it 10,000 times, and that's never going to happen again. And to be fair, we haven't seen it, but we also haven't seen a lot of them. And Cory Sandhagen, like I said, is very much that person. So that's why I think this is so important. But let's have a look at their stats anyway. And if I haven't said already, you know what to do. Hit the like, hit the subscribe for the daily content videos on all our platforms: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you name it, daily content. Anyway, getting back to where we were, let's have a look at the deeper statistics. Obviously, we have the slight height, I say slight, quite a substantial height and reach advantage going to Cory Sandhagen. 5'11" in the division, which is obviously quite tall, with a 70-inch reach. Again, quite long for the division. Petr Yan at a bit more of a modest 5'7" and a 67-inch reach, which I do think is going to be a factor in this fight. And I think if Cory Sandhagen is going to get his game off, which I think he will, he's going to have to use that reach, because that is something that Petr Yan hasn't had to face as of yet. He's had a lot of good competition. He's had a lot of convincing wins, but he hasn't fought someone like Cory Sandhagen. And everyone has the same problem with him, meaning anyone that comes up against him is going to have to deal with certain traits and assets that he has. He does have those knees. He does have those long limbs, and he does have that range. So that's what I think happens for Cory Sandhagen in this fight. If he's going to win this, I think he has to naturally keep Yan at a distance. He has to cut out the spinning stuff, because he'll get taken down. I think that was the thing that stood out the most for him in his last fight. It wasn't his performance whatsoever. It was just his decision making, which is so important when you're at the top. But you've got to remember, he's young. He's 29. He's got a lot of wins, so he hasn't been put in that place of a fight of that magnitude is what I'm getting at. He hasn't been in a fight of that magnitude, and it's a learning experience, and it's a learning curve. And I genuinely think the best thing that happened to Cory Sandhagen is that loss for his career in general. I think from here on out we're going to see a very, very impressive shift, because like I said at the start of the video, he's a very cerebral, reflective thinker. And the only thing I saw against TJ Dillashaw, the only thing I saw was just mental mistakes, giving up his back too easily, throwing too much spinning stuff to get taken down. And he wasn't even getting controlled when he got taken down. He was in an offensive way, is what I should add to that. People will say, oh, he had a body lock, so he's controlling him. And okay, fair enough. But There was no offense to that. That's why I personally saw it in his favour. But what he did say is, when he reflects on that, he just made bad decisions. He gave up his back sometimes because it was a more favourable position than another one, which may have included some damage. So he thought in his mind he was playing it a little bit smart and whatnot, and he thought he was probably up in the rounds, which he's come out and said. So he thought he was up on the rounds. He take the foot off the gas pedal a little bit. He's fine, he's got a body lock here, I'm not exerting too much energy, he's exerting more energy, I'm not taking any damage, I'm up on the scoreboard. He said all that, he come out and said that, and when he said that, I thought that was the most important thing, because his skill set poses problems for everybody. And I think if he comes in with a revised strategy, which I think is definitely going to happen, I think he's going to have to... It's a good thing. I think it's turned around quickly. He's fresh off the last fight, which was a very impressive performance. He didn't take any damage, and I think he just learnt those lessons so quickly that he can implement a game plan. I think it's good that he sort of got this a little bit last minute. However, on the flip side, we do have Petr Yan, who you cannot forget. He's on a mean winning streak. He's got 2 losses on his card, and that is to Aljimain Sterling. So some people will say, is that a loss? Yes, it is technically, but technically, is it? I understand that. And he lost in 2016 to a split decision. So he just lost it's one round, really, to nigh on perfection. And obviously the Sterling incident. And again, some impressive performances. He's a very, very talented, well-rounded striker and grappler, sorry. A very well-rounded fighter in total is what I meant to say. You look at his grappling, you look at his ability to take people down, his strength on top. He's got trips to his game, he's striking. It's a very, very well-rounded representation of martial arts, and I love watching him train at Tiger Muay Thai, and I love watching people of that ability train there, and his striking's crazy as well. So he poses a real threat. The threat I think he's going to pose is if he needs to get in on the inside. That's what needs to happen. Whether he's going to be able to do that too many times, I don't know. Cory Sandhagen has very, very good footwork, and like I said, if he's just made those slight adjustments, because that's all I felt like it was from a very dominant win, then Yan's going to have a lot of trouble. So like I said, he needs to get it on the inside, get heavy on him. I think he will look to wrestle him, but I don't think he wants to be on the ground too long. His submission attacks not very often. His submission averages, I think, 0.1, so we don't typically see a lot of submissions from him at all. So is he going to be able to get one? I'm not too sure. And the second thing is, if you're on the ground with Cory Sandhagen, that is a dangerous place to be. Obviously, the difference in their statistics is vast if you have a look at the grappling deficit in terms of Cory Sandhagen, but his ground game is nasty. He's got very good jiu-jitsu, he's got very long limbs, and he could easily slide the leg on top of the shoulder and get a little triangle from bottom, even an armbar. And the thing is, if he's not doing that, he's raining elbows on you. That's why I think, in my mind, the takedown scored a lot less, in my opinion, in the TJ Dillashaw fight, because Cory Sandhagen was doing so much damage from the bottom. But that's the risk that he poses. So I think Yan will have to be clever. If he uses his wrestling, I think he should use it to drain their gas tank a little bit and make it a bit of a dirtier fight, because that's where I think he'll win. And I think that's where he can look to go with this. I think that Cory Sandhagen's an absolute dog and he'll go to some dark places. I just think that Yan potentially will be a little bit more conditioned. Now, like I said, I think he needs to wrestle him and try to use up a little bit of that energy, but he doesn't want to stay there too long. Probably he's not going to leave a lot of space. He's not going to posture up too much and look to do too much damage, because like I said, things can get thrown up and he's nasty from the ground. So mixing in that takedown threat is obviously going to play with the mind a little bit of Cory Sandhagen, just in terms of his striking now. But obviously that knee's always a problem. Everything I say to Yan, I've got a counter to Sandhagen. But this is why I think it's such an exciting matchup, because I think they're so well balanced in terms of opposing threat. You have someone that's probably going to want to be a little bit tighter to you, who's got some nice wrestling, he's got some nice trips in Yan, and a very accomplished mixed martial artist. Then you've got someone who's a little bit more flamboyant. Obviously with Yan, we just have the basics. He's very efficient with his striking. That's one thing that I always find with Petr Yan. He doesn't really have any waste. He doesn't really have any fat to his game. Not only is he well-rounded, there's not really an overexertion anywhere. Whereas Cory Sandhagen will throw a knee here, will throw a high kick here. It naturally will happen because it's part of his game. And Petr Yan is very, very good. He reads the game very, very well and could just time a single. And that's the thing. If Cory Sandhagen's got decent defence, he's got decent defence, I think it's around 60%. But the thing is, if you time it perfectly, like Yan is a very accomplished wrestler, then it makes it easy. And especially when someone's throwing a high kick and you're hitting a single, it's going to be a lot easier. So this is why I feel like this fight's so well rounded, but I just feel like the stars have aligned for Cory Sandhagen on this one. I think he poses a lot of threats that potentially Petr Yan hasn't encountered. A lot of people haven't encountered them. He's wild, he's erratic, he lands spinning back fists, he lands flying knees repetitively. We've seen that against TJ Dillashaw and most noticeably Frankie Edgar. But the way that he pulled him in, the way he circled him into the knee and landed it on the button, tells me and shows me in the TJ fight that he can do that repetitively. But he's going to have to be a little bit more, again, efficient. He has to keep his game, Cory Sandhagen. He doesn't need to change him. He just has to be more efficient with it. But I think he gets it done. Like I said, I think the stars have aligned. I don't think he'll finish him, but I think he can nick this on points. I think he can out-damage him, and I think he can outscore him on the night. I don't think it's going to be a points contest from the outside. I don't think it's going to be like that. But I think at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a very, very good fight. And I think we're going to see more good from Sandhagen than we are from Yan. That is the easiest way for me to describe how I see this fight going. So, Cory Sandhagen decision, but this could go anyway, and I'm buzzing to see which way it goes. Anyway, enjoy the fights. Take care. Peace. And by the way, I can't leave without dropping in a little promo. Like I said, if you enjoyed the video, if you enjoyed the content, we bring you MMA from the UK. Like, the subscribe and little bell icon. Now I can leave. Peace.